Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Blue Collar Real Estate. I'm Greg Mayo.
And I am Ryan Herget. Greg, I'm excited to dive into today's topic. We're going to talk about some strategies to consider when you're putting your home on the market and like how to price it, right?
And very important that we have this conversation because people think because of the way the market is right now, that it's a no-brainer to sell your house. However, if it's not priced right, if it's not prepared right, you're not going to get the maximum dollar for your home, right? Isn't that the goal?
Very much the truth. And well, it is for most people. You know, everybody wants to get maximum value for their home, right?
Right.
Why wouldn't you? But there's still a process that you have to go through. Even though we are in a fantastic real estate market, we've been in for 7 years now. We're on a great rise. You still can't just put a sign in the yard, put it on Zillow, and pray something magical happens. No, there's a process to getting top dollar for your home, and that's kind of what we wanted to shed some light on today for everybody and bring them up to speed on behind the curtain of real estate.
So, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I do want to acknowledge our new sponsor today.
We got a new sponsor.
We got a new one for today. I'm excited to have him on, Jimmy's Truck Wash and High Colonic Spa.
What is High Colonics?
It's a fancy word for enema.
Well, in that case, then
they'll clean your big rig and power wash your colon.
This is
all in the same
this
stuff.
Is looking good. The show's heading in a really positive direction, I feel.
Look at the lower screen down there. Jason likes that. He wants the address.
Oh man, yeah, we'll have to send some referrals their way.
Anyway.
So today we're going to take a deep dive into, how do we establish value for your home? Everybody likes to look on Zillow and see the Zestimate, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But, or you see your neighbor's house that sold down the street and they tell you that, they tell you it got one price and then, well, it maybe got another price. We had that happen the other day. That was kind of funny. But nevertheless, we want to show you what's the process that we'd go through to establish value. Okay, that's one of the things that we're going to take a look at today. We're going to take a look at how do you understand how many people are even competing for your home right now. What's the market actually look like for people buying homes in your area? Not all areas are the same. We've all heard location, right? Well, that gets hyper specific. There's certain school districts not everybody wants to be in. There's certain areas that grow more rapidly because of maybe schools. So we have to take all of that into consideration when we're establishing value for your home, right?
And the idea that, and you've run into this too, if people want to sell their house and they get you on the phone, maybe it's a referral, maybe they saw your website, who knows, whatever. But you've never met them. Mm-hmm. You've never been to their house. They get you on the phone. They say, hey, I'm Bob. My address is 1234 Main Street. What can you sell my house for?
Yep. Which is an impossible question to answer right over the phone. That's like, hey, what do you want to give me for my car? Well, without knowing how many miles are on it, what brand of car it is.
Right.
Is it been maintained? Is there any rust? You have to know all those factors when you're putting together a value on a home, just like you would if you were going to sell a car, right?
Exactly.
So that's what we kind of want to walk people through today. And let's just kind of get started with that if you're okay with it.
Yep.
But one of the filters, and we're going to switch to the computer. I'm excited to take everybody behind the scenes here in just a few minutes, but I love, as we've said, pulling back the curtain of real estate for everybody. I believe in a very transparent real estate process for people where they can see everything that I see. I do it for them. I just take it upon myself to do everything that they could probably do themselves and make it easy for them. And that starts with showing them how is value established, okay? In most parts of central Indiana, okay, if you look at the numbers, about 10% of all homes, and this number goes up or down a little bit depending on the specific area and price range, but about 10% of all homes sell for cash, okay? That's obviously the goal. If you could sell your home for cash and not have to deal with things like an appraisal and somebody just writes you a check, that's obviously the best case scenario for everybody, right? But if you're only going to sell it for cash, you're eliminating 90% of the buyers out there. Well, and if you're going to sell your home and somebody's going to get a loan to do it, man, that changes the rules a little bit, right? Because even though maybe somebody would pay you, I'm going to make up a number here, $200,000 for your home, maybe all of the other homes in your community have only sold for $174 to $179 or something like that. Okay, that's what we have to understand, because if the other homes in your area aren't worth that, then you're going to have a hard time establishing value from an appraisal standpoint. So I'm going to just literally show people what that looks like, right? So we'll start with that first. And then the next thing I want to talk about are some of the updates that you have to consider. And I do that when I'm sitting down with the seller by simply showing them pictures. It's a really scientific approach, but we just simply look at pictures.
And we also, and maybe we don't have time to squeeze into this episode, but we also need to talk a little bit about what updates to not do.
Absolutely. Yeah. What adds value, what doesn't add value. I
Right.
know we did an episode on that in the past, but yeah, we can absolutely certainly touch on that because that's huge, and as we're heading into the spring selling season here, as I like to call it, there's a lot of people with a lot of questions, and there's no sense if you're planning on selling your home, spending money that you're not going to get back. Right? You want to get maximum value. If you spend $1, you want to get 2 or 3 back, obviously. So let's start out with, let's pretend we're going to look for a home. Okay, we used Greenwood, Indiana in one of our last episodes, so we'll just kind of stay in Greenwood. So for all of you Southside Indianapolis people, I am for hire. I'm joking.
Southside. I just had to get that out.
But that's what we'll start with, and we're going to take a look at a particular community here. This is actually where I'm headed next after our appointment today, but a community called Hill Valley Estates. Okay, I'm going to be meeting with a lady in here that's owned a home for the last 15 years in there, and I'm just going to kind of show everybody what I'm going to show her here in about an hour and a half, and we'll just go through and see what this house is worth. Okay, her house is almost 1,800 square foot. It's a one-level ranch home, and one of the questions I ask people when I'm talking to them on the phone before, we mentioned before I get there, because I can't see the house before I get there, obviously. So one of the questions I always ask people is, Greg, let's go back to when you bought the house. Okay, let's go back to day number 1 when you walked in and you wanted to buy this house. If you had to give it a rank, 10 being it's brand new, it's perfect, nothing needed done, everything's under warranty, that's a 10. Versus the opposite end of that same scale is a 1, which is we might need to call a bulldozer and a wrecking crew out here to deal with this, right? Okay, so 1's bulldozed this house, 10 it's brand new under warranty. Where was it the day you bought it? Okay, and then we'll talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, and then next, I'm going to ask them the same question. I'm going to say, where is it today? Okay, because I want to understand, what have they done to the house since they've bought it? Did they do a bunch of work, or have they barely touched it? Because those are all things that are going to come into play when we're establishing value for what can we get this home sold for? Okay, and this particular lady told me that she had done a lot to her house. She gave me, it's about an 8 right now, and I asked her, what would it take to make it a 10? And she said, well, my roof's a little older. My roof's probably 15 to 18 years old, so it's kind of on the trailing end of things. But it's got a new furnace, got new water heater, newer in the last 5 years. She's done a bunch of updates inside the house, so it sounds like she's done it all right. I'm anxious to look at it a little bit later on today. So we're going to take a look at a deep dive in Hill Valley Estates, which again is a community on the south side of Indianapolis, and we're going to see what's going on. Okay, and again, when we look at value, we have to look at it through the lens of an appraiser, which says 3 things. Okay, an appraiser is going to look at location, location, location first, right? They're not going to go across the street to the $1 million community to find a home of value. They're going to look at homes that are selling in your same community.
Right.
Okay, they're not going to go outside of their community or of your community to find a home or a comparable sale when there's 6 of them in your community. Okay, an appraiser needs a minimum of 3, but ideally they want to have 5 to 6 comparable sales to establish, okay, what's this home actually worth? Because certainly not every home, there's not going to be any direct home correlation, meaning one's not going to be the exact same as the next, right?
Right, and if you're listening to this and not watching it, I would encourage you to jump over and look at it on YouTube, because what Ryan's getting ready to show here on the screen, it's important. Mm-hmm. It's so important because whatever your idea, or as homeowners, whatever our ideas are, what our house should be worth, it doesn't really matter unless it matches up with the facts.
Yeah, because again, if you can get a cash buyer, then awesome. I hope you do, and that's the best case scenario. But if not, you're going to have to play by these rules,
right?
Which are the rules of an appraisal. So the first rule is location. They're only going to look at homes in your community. They're not going to go outside of your community unless there simply are not 3 to 6 homes that are similar. And the next component they look at is size. Okay, they're not going to compare, again, this lady's home is 1,800 square foot. They're not going to compare it to a home that's 1,100 square foot.
So size does matter.
Size matters. That's what I hear, right?
All right, so let's dig in here. Show us what you got.
All right, so let's take a look at it. So we're going to look at homes in just that community. Again, it was Hill Valley Estates. So we're going to just pull up Hill Valley Estates here, okay? And I'm going to look at not just what's on the market today. We're going to look at what's active, what's pending, and more importantly, anything else, what has sold in the last 6 months. Okay, and again, I mentioned her home is a 1-level home, so we're not going to compare it to 2-level homes, and we're also not going to compare it to homes that are way different in size. What's way different? Usually about 300 square foot up or down. Okay, when we're looking at a home that's 1,900 square foot, we'll go about 300 down, and 300 square foot up to establish value. So I'm going to put that factor in here. So I'm going to go homes that are 1,500 square foot all the way up to homes that are 2,200 square foot that are 1-level homes in Hill Valley Estates that have sold in the last year. There's 8 of them. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. That gives me enough to look at to determine where am I going to commit at on this. We've got one that has an accepted offer on it, but here's all the data right here. Okay, if I organize this out, I can see that the high sale in this community for homes like this is $235. I can see that the low sale is $170. I'm guessing if we go and look at some pictures, we'll see why.
Yep.
So let's do that. Let's start low and we'll work our way up. Okay, and we'll click on this home. It's a few hundred square foot smaller than hers. It was only on the market one day, was built a year after this lady's home was built. She was built in 1968. And all I'm doing is I'm going to go through and show them pictures while I'm sitting in their house with them. And if you're not looking online, I encourage you to. This one has a 1967 original yellow carpet. It has blue walls.
Chicka bow wow.
It has a not so updated plan, but it's got a few improvements. It looks like it has good bones, right? That's what I would expect a buyer to say when they walk through this home. It's got good bones, but it also has pink walls, baby blue walls, okay? And it's got a nice setup, but man, update is the word that comes to mind when you walk in this house. So
if you're updating the bedroom flooring, painting the walls, updating the kitchen, changing from baseboard heat, you're going to spend a couple bucks.
Yep. You're going to spend a couple bucks. Now, here's the important thing I want people to consider, though. This home hit the market at $169,500. And just because it needed updated didn't mean that it sold for less than that. Look at that. It sold for $500 more than asking price in 3 days, even though it needed updated. Those are the things we have to take into consideration. We can't
because that's today's market.
Because that's what's going on right now today. So even though this home needed a dramatic overhaul, and I'm sure that people will do it, they bought it at a discount relative to this one right here that's at $235. I'm guessing if we look at the inside of this home, it's going to be a very different story.
Yep.
So let's do that. This home was on the market a little longer, 77 days, but it hit the market at $239, sold again pretty close to asking price. And I'm guessing that they've already done a lot of the updates that existed here. And there we go. Updates throughout, new kitchen, looks like vinyl plank floors, granite countertops, you name it. All of the updates are done.
Yep.
So what we'll do, and just for the sake of time on this episode, we're not going to go into every single picture like I would do with a client, but obviously there's a range. We've got homes that sold between 210, 280, or 185, and they're in. And we're going to go find those homes that are most similar in updates, obviously in the same community, and then we're going to see where do we match up.
And what you've shown so far is absolutely brilliant, because you got the one on the low end that needs everything updated, but looks like a solid home. Then you got the one on the high end that's had everything updated. And the difference between those two is about what they're going to have to pay a contractor to bring the first home up to the second home.
Truly.
So your point to now let's talk to my seller in that neighborhood and let's talk about where her home fits on that continuum.
Yeah.
That gives her a good foundation. Again, it's data. It's not your opinion.
No, and that's why I like to show people, because I don't want them to think, oh, well, that guy, he thinks he knows everything. No, it's not about that. It's about here's the facts, understanding what the data is telling us, and making educated decisions around it. That's how we get top dollar for your house. That's how we get it sold in the shortest amount of time, and we get top dollar. And then we combine that with a strategy after the sign goes in the yard to drive as much traffic as possible. So that comes here in just a minute. We'll talk about that. So any other questions we need to dive into as far as establishing value for your home? Now, it's a little easier if you're in a subdivision like this. If you're not in a subdivision, there's a few other rules that we have to look at. If you've got 5 acres and lots of woods and a big pole barn, that's certainly a value to somebody, but it's a little harder to find comparable sales because not everybody has that. Right?
I had to help my buddy try to get a valuation on his house to do a refi 3 or 4 years ago. He lives in Hadley, Indiana, in a unique house on a unique lot in a weird spot. There are no comps.
Yeah.
The closest comps were in Danville, and in town in Danville is nothing like in the country in Hadley. So, yeah, that's a different ball game. But what we've looked at so far, as you're sitting there at the home, then you take that opportunity to walk around the home. And if we go mentally back to that first house and just think about, okay, I want $230,000 for my house, so I'm going to put a brand new kitchen in. But you ought not.
And again, you just have to understand what are your goals, okay?
Right.
Because if you want to put a kitchen in, which would obviously help enhance the value, according to Zillow, every dollar you spend in kitchens and bathrooms, you're going to get $1.58 back. That's a national statistic, but that was in their book. Zillow Talks came out a couple of years ago. But statistically, for every dollar you spend in a kitchen or a bathroom, you'll get $1.58 back. And I'm sure that varies widely depending on the area of the country you're in.
But then do you have the 2 months to wait for your kitchen to get redone before you sell the house.
That's it. That's it. Because then you want to also kind of take a look at where where are we at timing wise? Okay, we're early February right now as of the date of this recording. Well, the busy season's here. Okay.
Yeah.
If we were talking in November, it's going to be a different story. And we'll take a look at how many people are looking at homes here in just a moment on that report that we show people. But simply put, you've got to look at the entire picture. You can't look at one moment in time and one piece of data and make a decision from. You've got to look at the entire picture when you're establishing value.
And that's exactly where having a realtor on your team that acts as an advisor and a counselor, not a counselor like, tell me, how did that make you feel? But a counselor like to help you navigate all these different moving pieces and parts.
Well, and,
right?
and it's so important and that's why I encourage people to start this early. If you're thinking about moving at the end of this year, cool, let's have a conversation today, 9 months earlier, because it gives you time to maybe do some of those projects yourself, save some money, some sweat equity, if you will, and if you're good at that. Or bring in a team of contractors, shop around, get the best value for you when you're hiring the right group of people, or ideally your real estate agent can connect you with some awesome people there, and get that work done slowly over a period of time versus what I see happen so much, which is 30 days before a home goes on the market, it is absolute chaos and everybody's stressed and pissed before the sign goes in the yard, right? Because it's like, we got to get a pod. We need another storage unit. And it gets crazy, right? So start early.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? It's the same thing when you sell a house. It's not being a year out from moving is not too soon to get started because there's going to be a lot of trips to Lowe's involved getting a house ready to sell. Right?
Absolutely. And the older house, the more trips you're going to make.
That's it. Let's talk a little bit about how do we drive traffic? How do we market a home? This is a question I get a lot as a real estate agent is, well, what are you going to do to drive traffic? What are you going to do to get my home sold? And that's simply how are we going to market the home? How are we going to put that home in front of enough people to generate the top dollar? Again, you can have the very best home and price it at the very bottom, right spot of the market. But if nobody knows about it, how are you going to create competition, which is what it takes to create multiple offers, right? So there's a process that we go through with that. And I can't speak for every real estate agent, but I can share with what we do. We have a strategy when we introduce a home to the market, as I like to call it, okay? We don't just say, oh, yeah, it's Saturday afternoon. Client calls and, hey, can you swing by and take pictures and put this thing up tomorrow morning? No, that is not how we're going to do this, okay? And there's, again, certainly times that can work. But my goal is I want to take everybody through a process that I know works so we can get consistent, predictable results, which makes everybody happy and everybody wants to tell Ryan, their friends about Ryan, right? So what we do is we take photos on a Monday. We start pre-marketing the home on a Wednesday, letting everybody know, start doing email campaigns to real estate agents. So we start pre-marketing it on Wednesday. We introduce the home, meaning I hit go live on the market on Friday morning, knowing that it's going to take probably 8 to 12 hours for that home to syndicate to every single website that it needs to and a few others that we posted on. And I'm going to start running all of my social media campaigns around there as well. One thing I'm not going to do, you notice I left this out, is I'm not going to take out an ad in the newspaper. Okay? I'm not going to put up a billboard. Okay? Those are not part of my marketing plan anymore when 98%, again, I use Zillow a lot because they're basically a research company, 98% of everybody that's looking for homes is online. Right.
Yeah.
So why am I going to spend $1 marketing that house where people are not looking for it? Because when was the last time you picked up that newspaper in the Kroger store looking for houses? You just didn't do it, right? Yeah. So
that's hilarious.
That was a while ago. So I say all that to say this: we take it through a process, and then we market the hell out of doing an opening house grand opening weekend, and we make it an event. It's not just we'll get there at 1:00 and put a sign in the yard as we're getting there. No. That open house is going to be an event. I want to drive as much traffic. I want as many people through that house as possible to create competition. Because again, when competition's created and you've got one person standing in the corner saying, we kind of really like this house. You've got another one in the other corner having the same conversation. What do you think, what thoughts are going through their mind?
Well, it's the human nature. Well, that guy's not getting my house.
That's the goal. So it's, everything we do is designed around an online marketing campaign. We go into a deep dive. If you want full information on that, give me a call, text, email. I'll send you a copy of our team's pre-marketing plan so you can see exactly what we do to get your home sold for top dollar in the shortest amount of time possible. But simply put, you have to have a plan.
Well, and to what you just said, we'll send it to you. You can take a look at it. Why? Because there's no mystery to what we're doing.
No, there's really not.
The difference that I've learned in the 3 or 4 years you and I have worked around each other, the difference is every agent has access to what we do.
Every same tool. Yep.
But it's the willingness to put in that work.
Mm-hmm. It's showing up and doing the job.
Right.
and doing it on time, not being late, and being the professional, and always looking at every situation and getting better every single day. I feel, I keep harping on that. That's my mantra this year: is show up, be on time, and get better every day. And when you do that, you take a look at, I don't sell every house that I put on the market opening weekend, okay? But those that don't sell opening weekend, I want to know why. I want to know what's been missed. How do I get better? How do I improve my process? I've got a listing right now. It's a little bit of a challenge, okay? We're going through a process with it. And, there's some personal dynamics going on with the sellers there, so it's adding a degree of complication, but nevertheless, it's also made me get better. It's made me apply some new systems, new communication methods to make sure that both, in this case, there are sellers that have gone in separate directions, making sure that I'm communicating with people early and often so that way they don't get frustrated. So even the challenging opportunities, the ones that aren't always the easy slam dunks, I look at those as the best opportunities to learn and get better and improve my processes and systems. So that way when I apply that to another deal, the next one goes smoother.
Yep.
So we've talked about a ton on this episode so far. We've talked about what kind of updates to maybe consider. We've talked about how do we establish value. What else would be important to kind of dive into as far as helping people understand what they need to do as they're preparing to sell their home this year?
Well, there's a lot of stuff. And actually, before I ever became an agent, Dave Ramsey used to talk about this on his show, his radio show. They're not a sponsor. But, Dave used to be a real estate agent. I don't know if he's still licensed or whatever. But it's the idea of walking through your house and stuff that as a homeowner, I do it in my home. We've been there 7 years. You do it in your home. You stop seeing stuff.
Yeah.
So it's the idea of walking through the home and make sure people don't see, smell, or hear anything they shouldn't.
That's well said. I love that. I'm going to steal that because it's so true. See, smell, or hear anything that they shouldn't. So some examples of that, maybe what's your home smell like? Do you cook foods that have certain aromas to it? Have you cleaned recently? I always encourage people, when you're thinking about selling your home, go walk through a new home model. Okay, or go walk through the competition.
Yep.
Go to an open house or two within your community and notice how have they prepared for it, because you will be so critical of somebody else's house. But then you have to walk back into yours with that same lens. You have to look at your home through that same lens that you were just super critical looking at somebody else's house, because that's the competition. That's what you have to take into consideration when you're selling, or better yet, go into a new home model. Here's an interesting fact: that 76% of everybody buying a home right now spends 4 hours a week watching HGTV. They're watching HGTV. Where do you think they're getting educated on their expectations for buying a home? Oh, wow, this sucked, and now it's awesome 30 minutes later, and I don't ever have to deal with a problem? Yeah, I'll take that.
Right. Yeah, give me that one.
That's the expectation, which is fine. But, man, you can't just, again, put some lipstick on a pig, put a sign in the yard, put it on the internet, and pray something happens. You're not going to get top dollar if that's your strategy. People still expect to walk into a home that says, wow, this is awesome. I want that. Not, we could paint this, or we could do that, or we could do this. For those folks that sold a home in the last 20, 30 years, going back then where there was that pride of, we could make this our own, and I'm proud of doing this work. Boy, I don't know about you, Greg, but that's just gone in my world.
Yeah.
There's very few people interested in saying, we'll put a little elbow grease into it. No, they will pay top dollar for a house that looks awesome that they can just move into right now.
And which is funny to me, but to back up for a minute to the see, smell, and hear. Mm-hmm. The worst thing that combines all three of those is an automatic litter box. And the reason I say that, I walked into a house to do a listing appointment last spring, and it was a smaller house, national home, right, 982 square foot ranch. And in the corner of the dining room was an automatic litter box. Mm-hmm. I saw it when I walked in. I could smell it. The house smelled like cat. Sorry for you cat lovers. Not everybody loves cats. I don't dislike them, as a disclaimer, but you don't want to smell that, right? And then sitting at the table going through stuff with them, I kept hearing the as it cleaned itself. So litter boxes you want gone, clutter you want out.
I tell everybody I hire decorators frequently, especially for some of our more premium listings. And when I hire a decorator, I've learned so much just walking around the house. So somebody knows how to make things look good, right? And it's this simple: if it's on the floor, pick it up and put it away. You're going to have to move anyway, right? If you're selling your house, you're going to have to move anyway. So if it is a personal item, if it is anything that you are not using every single day, pick it up, put it away, put it in a tote, and nicely organize it in the garage.
Yep.
Okay. Garage doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to show well. And just pick everything up. If you're not using it, put it away. I know you've got 4,000 pairs of shoes, But guess what? You're only going to wear probably 8 of them over the next 2 weeks. So let's just put the other 3,900 pair away
Right.
for now.
And the other thing on smell, and this is a personal pet peeve, so I've got to say it. If you're getting ready to list your house, putting one of those little automatic oil air freshener things in every stinking outlet in the house, stop doing that. Your house ends up smelling like a French brothel on a Saturday night. It's just too much. But so you want to mitigate the bad smells, but you don't want to overdo the good smells either.
Yeah, there's a scent. I've got one of those Scentsy things. Somebody had given me years and years ago. Those like Scentsy plug-in things, and like the blueberry cheesecake. It's so awesome. I take that to open houses with me.
That makes me hungry.
Lots of compliments.
I used to be able to get a candle, and this is not a joke. It was a Yankee candle, and it smelled like fresh cut grass.
Ah, I've not seen that one.
So I would burn that and like oatmeal cookies, candles together. So you got this, even in the winter, you smell that
sense
fresh
of
cut
freshness,
grass.
yeah.
And then you smell the cookies, and it's all homey. I'm not baking cookies at a listing because I'm not that agent. But so yeah, you just got to be mindful of those kind of things. And if you're a person thinking about selling your house, whoever comes over, right? Everybody's got a shtick and does their thing. I encourage you, whether it's me, Ryan, or somebody else, one of the other 27,000 agents in Indiana, or how many there is, if you get a sense that you can trust them and they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and then you have to trust them.
That's it. Well, and again, it's like working with any professional, right? And unfortunately, real estate agents are right up there with used car salespeople
right.
as far as the list of least trusted advisors, and that's very unfortunate for our industry. But it's also the truth. It's the barrier to entry to become a real estate professional is very, very low, and it's they've done a better job over the years, I think, of doing that. But nevertheless, it's a lot of people get into this industry because they see what they see on HGTV, and that is just not what the what the business is. Unfortunately, it's a piece of it, but it's not all of it.
A friend of mine who's an attorney said this about attorneys, and I'll say it about real estate agents. He said 97% of them run it for the rest of us. Okay, it's not that bad. That's funny. You're not laughing.
No,
Jason's looking at me like I'm insane.
I'm unfortunately agreeing, but it's as somebody that's been doing this a long time, I like to take some pride in what I do, and it's like show up on time and be a professional. Do your job. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And man, everything's a lot easier. You have happier customers, and things go smooth.
So wrapping up here, anything else you feel like we need to share?
No, I think we've talked about a strategy to use to introduce a home onto the market. We've talked about how to establish value through the eyes of an appraiser. Again, cash is a very similar process, but you can get a little luckier with cash sometimes. And then we've also talked about some of the updates that, you're going to get a little bit more bang for your buck for. And again, I know we did an entire episode on that in the past. But I think that's our goal with this episode is just kind of take people behind the curtain of real estate a little bit, show them the real world, what's going on. This is how this works. And hopefully we can help some people out. And that's our goal.
And as we wrap up, y'all don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
Hit the notification bell on YouTube. Greg forgot about that last episode.
Ding, ding.
So that's it. But no, we appreciate everybody's time. Hopefully this was a very helpful subject, certainly one both Greg and I both very, very much enjoy. And if we can take a deep dive for you into your community, your home, help you establish that value up front, or simply get a game plan together, email us, call us. We'll be happy to share a copy of that pre-selling guide for you, so that way you know exactly what that roadmap can look like.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Blue Collar Real Estate. I'm Greg Mayo.
And I'm Ryan Herget.
Thanks everybody.